welcome song. Listen.
We are delighted to have you in our presence this glorious day. You are welcome in this house, and we hope and pray that you will enjoy your stay.
You're free to worship.
You're free to worship.
You're free to praise.
You're free to praise. For this is the day the Lord has made.
So let us rejoice and be glad in it.
We want to serve and take care of you. So make yourself at home.
So UBC, let me hear you say this. You're welcome.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Come on, let's give the Lord a hand praise. God bless you. And thank you for joining me on this day. I'm telling you, we are excited right here at Union Baptist Church, where we are a church determined to live for Christ. But I am so excited because we are coming out of our family reunion. Come on, let's give the Lord a hand praise for a tremendous reunion. You know, the pandemic did a work on many of our families and many of our communities and churches. And the pandemic caused us to be bifurcated and dislocated and separated, and we could not get together as we typically would. But then now post-pandemic, now that we have come out of that kind of season, I want you to know that it's so important that we begin to rekindle relationships, rekindle family interaction, because family, don't forget, God established the family before he established the church. And so family must be a priority. How we love one another, how we communicate with one another, how we strengthen one another, how we even forgive one another is so significant. And so the family reunion was put in place to bring our church family together, our individual families together, and then the community together. And we were so empowered and so enriched. We started on Friday night with a live band and a Christian dance. That's right. Christians can have fun. I'm going to say that again. Christians can have fun with joy in the Lord. And so we were able to come together and dance. And many people don't think that dancing and Christianity goes together. But in fact, it's the atmosphere for which you do anything in, and the heart and the purpose for which you have. And there were some miracles that broke out in that dance. We had two ladies, two sisters, who had not talked to one another in some years. And God used that dance to bring them back together. Come on, let's thank God for that. So you never know how God is tearing down walls, but we had a great time at our Christian dance, and Soul Tree Band did their thing, and we are excited about them and the way in which they presented some very nice, pleasant music and fun music for us to dance. Also, on Saturday morning, we were able to come together and see a movie together, because sometimes you just need to see yourself on the big screen. You know, we watched the movie Ordinary Angel, and you want to see that movie. It's a powerful movie in terms of how God can use ordinary people to do extraordinary things. A wonderful, wonderful gathering. And those of you who supported that movie, thank you for coming. And then on Saturday night, we went to go hear one of my favorite musical artists, Kim, in concert right here in Winston-Salem. And can I tell you, the saints, we had church in that concert. Hey, listen, wherever we go, we impact and we infect the environment. We, wherever we go, we show up as the light. And certainly we were there with other believers. And when Kim ushered us into a moment of worship and praise, I mean, oh my God, we were so strengthened hearing just some good music. Sometimes the church has to come outside of the church to be the church. Some of us are so locked in our churches that the world never sees us and the joy that we have. For the Bible says that the joy of the Lord is our strength. And so we had a great time there at that concert. And then on Sunday morning, we had couples classes and singles classes. I want to thank Evangelist Moldovan for doing a tremendous job with the singles. And then I want to thank Pastor Ronald McCray and Dr. Linda McCray for what they did with our couples. They blessed us immensely during those classes. And then we prepared to hear a challenging word from the Reverend Dr. Al Sharpton, who really came and gave us a history lesson on our families and how we are all connected, and the body of Christ has been able to connect and sustain because of families. And so in just a few moments, you're going to hear a powerful word from Dr. Al Sharpton, who came and really blessed us in a way and challenged us in a way to keep on coming together, being together, connecting together, and staying together as a family unit, because that's where the strength is. We must go back and let our elders know that we appreciate them. We must then charge our adults to get involved with family life and preserve what we have left. And then we must reach our young people and let them know that God has a plan for them, and their assignment is to also continue a great family legacy. I want you to get ready to come on and go with me. Call up someone, text somebody, tell them to tune into this broadcast, because I promise you, you're going to be blessed on this day as you hear about the challenge of being a family. I'm so excited. Come on, go with me now into the sanctuary as we will hear the Reverend Dr. Al Sharpton. Today we did not invite a flute. We invited a trumpet. In a time when poverty, racism, discrimination, and felonies are all over the place, we need to hear a word from the Lord. Would you please put your hands together for none other than the Reverend Dr. Al Sharpton? Come on, let's receive him, Winston-Salem. Preach, Reverend Sharpton, preach.
You may be seated. First, giving honor to God and to our pastor, my friend down through the years. Give a hand to Bishop Sir Walter Mack. And certainly, as he said, we shared mentors, but he also knows that we share a friendship down through the years. And he is one of the few folks that can call me and make me do what I'm doing today. He called me and said, we're having our family affair day, and you're going to preach for us that Sunday. I said, well, Sir Mac, Bishop, I'm doing this, that, and the other, and then I'm scheduled to do this. He said, yeah, I know, but you're going to preach for us. And this been a rough week. And I called him the other night, I said, now you know it's rough. I don't know what is going to happen. The debate had me praying all night. And I got to do my MSNBC show at 5 on Saturday and Sunday. He said, that's right. He said, now remember, Al, that come to me a couple of times in a private plane. So just get one of them, come down, preach, and fly right back. So my daughter Ashley's with me. I said, well, I guess we're going to get a private plane and fly down and preach and go right back. Because that is the kind of friend he is. Because I love Mac, not only is he one of the great preachers and pastors and really cares about people, he's also one that stands up for what's right. He does not turn his pulpit into some political forum, but if there's an issue that is right, he's going to stand up for what's right. And I believe we don't come to church just to hear politics, but I believe if something is wrong, we're going to call wrong wrong. And he will call it out and he will stand up. We got too many religious punks in the pulpit. You can't represent God and be scared at the same time. If you're going to preach the word in season and out of season. And if you're scared, then say you're scared. And sit down and shut up and let somebody that's not scared stand up and say what needs to be said. You know, I go to some churches and people say to me, Reverend Al, we're glad to have you with us, and don't get off into all that civil rights and all that. Just preach the word. I said, well, I intend to do that. I said, but let me ask you something. What kind of Bible y'all read here? He said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, the second book of the Bible is the liberation of slaves. Moses led a slave movement. So maybe you got a different Bible here. I didn't get the version. You can't talk about God and not talk about the liberation of his people. You can't, this family affair day, family reunion, everybody getting together. We cannot tell our young people to do the right thing, to don't get in trouble, don't join a gang, don't get a record. And then you turn around and act like it's normal that we got a man with 34 felonies trying to go back in the White House. What we supposed to tell our children? Tell them to respect women. You got a man that has been found to assault a woman. Quit sugarcoating this stuff. We are in a dangerous time. And I'm not telling you who to vote for, but I am telling you who to stand up for in terms of what you stand up to represent to your own children. Now you vote for who you want, but you can't have double standards. Reporter asked me, well, what do you think about Biden's thing the other night? I said, I think it was terrible. He said he got mixed up where he couldn't finish sentences. I said, I think that was real bad. I felt for the president. I said, but I was just as concerned with the sentences Trump finished, the ones that Biden didn't finish. So I done said that. Let me go on and take my text. I done got Mac in enough trouble. Now, if you go to 1 Samuel, 15 chapter, 17th verse. So Samuel took the horn of oil and anointed him in the presence of his brothers. And from that day on, the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon David. I want to talk during this family affair in the presence of your family. In the presence of your family. Glad to acknowledge with me from New York the pastor of Mother AME Zion, Historic Church in New York. He also is the Chief Operating Officer of National Action Network, Reverend Malcolm Byrd. One of the things that we need to deal with first and foremost is all of us come from a family that is different in its family history than anybody in America. Many of us come from families that have been broken, families that have been torn apart, and families that have a hard time reconciling and coming back together. But when you look at the history of the black family in America, you are not as surprised as one would be with other families. Because when you look at the fact that we were systematically torn apart, we are still in a recovery of finding out what a family is. Don't ever forget, there have been slavery all through mankind. But this was the first form of slavery that our names were taken from us. And our parents were sold to different states. And our children never knew who their daddy was. The slave master was daddy. And from 1619, don't ever forget, they never even incorporated the country till 1776. We'd already been slaves over 150 years. And all the way until 1863, we had no right to have a family. Men couldn't name their children after them. Women were subject to the whims of the slave master. And then the South decided they were going to break off because some of the Northerners were saying, we need to end slavery. We can't continue to propagate slavery in this kind of atmosphere. It's affecting our business. It's affecting our tariffs. And we can't continue to go in business like this. And they decided they were going to start moving toward ending slavery. South rebelled and said, well, we'll form our own country. And they broke and had the Confederate States. And it led to a civil war. And the war was over the North wanting to continue to do trade one way. It was about money. Slavery was about money. They needed free labor. It was about money. And they kept fighting till the Confederates had begun gaining. They came so far north that the abolitionists kept saying, free the slaves, let the slaves join the Union Army. Lincoln wouldn't do it. Lincoln said, no, we can't do that. They got further north and they said, you got to let us get more troops, free the slaves. He said, we can't do that. Finally, when they got as far north as Maryland, Lincoln decided to let the slaves join the Union Army. And the Union Army became engulfed with blacks. And empowered, that's the word I want to say, empowered by black slaves. And they backed up the Confederate Army. That's why they teach the wrong story to our children that Lincoln freed the slaves. The slaves freed Lincoln. But imagine now, Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation. Said January 1st, 1863, midnight, slaves are free. Y'all can walk off the plantation. Watch night started in our tradition.
That's right, that's right.
Not because we was going somewhere to party. We got in church and prayed, hoping that Lincoln would keep his promise. That when the clock struck midnight, we could walk off the plantation. But remember now, we walked off not knowing where mama was, not knowing where daddy was. We had no money, we had no education. It was against the law for us to even read and write. Illiterate, broken down family, now we free. Free to do what?
Jesus.
Nothing to work with, nobody to call, nobody to love us. And we walked off that plantation, 1863. They said, well, we'll help a little. The first thing we had, Mac, the only thing we had that got us together was the black church. We didn't own nothing. We didn't have nothing. But we could come together and call on God. And black banks and black colleges and black politicians all came out of the black church is all we had. That's why all you new style folk that don't want to deal with the black church, you're getting away from the foundation of what gave us what we had in the first place. Oh, that's old school. No, it was the only school we had. We didn't own nothing else. We wasn't in charge of nothing else. And out of the black church started Reconstruction, and we put blacks in Congress, and we started black businesses. And then the backlash came. Reconstruction only lasts 12 years. Andrew Johnson turned things around, and they made laws that we couldn't live and do what white citizens did.
Wow.
Went all the way to Plessy versus Ferguson, 1896, that there was no rights that a black had that a white was bound to respect, by law. For 100 years, Jim Crow laws. That's why this guy run around here talking about the black family was strong under Jim Crow. The black family had no rights. We had to walk in the gutter if whites were walking on the curb. Couldn't drink out of a water fountain. Couldn't go to a bathroom till we got home. But with all of that, I want these young folk to understand, with all of that, we still survived. When you look at your mama and your grandmama and your great-grandmama, you're looking at the strongest things human beings ever went through, and they still survived. If you know the blood in your veins, you wouldn't take back for nobody, because we took more and kept going anyhow, not knowing who we were, not knowing who loved us, but we kept going knowing that if God be for us. That's all we had. That's why we sing, if it hadn't been for the Lord on my side, where would I be? It's all we had. I remember about 2007, Mac, a reporter called me from New York Daily News, and he said that they were doing a thing, it was January 2007, said they were doing a thing on well-known blacks' family tree, and would I allow him to do mine? I said, yeah. About a week later, he came to me. He had a photographer and another reporter with him. I said, what is all this? He said, let me ask you something. Do you know your family's tree? I said, well, I know my mother and father broke up when I was 10. I know his parents. I know her parents. That's about as far as I know. He said, what was your grandfather and your father's name? I said, Coleman Sharpton. He said, that's right. But his name was Coleman Sharpton Jr. I said, really? He said, yeah, his father was named Coleman Sharpton. And his father, your great-grandfather, was a slave in a place called Ellenville, South Carolina, Edgefield, South Carolina. I said, how you know all this? He said, well, he was owned by a guy named Alexander Sharpton. That's how you got Sharpton, because slaves was named after their master. And Alexander Sharpton married a girl named Anna Thurman. She was the great aunt of Strom Thurman, the segregationist. He said, we got it because Alexander Sharpton died and Anna Thurman Sharpton leased out your great-grandfather to Florida. I said, yeah, that's where my grandfather lived. He said, that's how they got to Florida, because they were used to pay off her bills. So I always thought my father's folk came from Florida. I got on a plane, went down, took my two daughters, and I took them to where this Edgefield, South Carolina was, and went and found out there was a guy, an archivist, that had kept the actual plantations where my great-grandfather was a slave. He had no idea. And then they said, you know that the First Baptist Church was the white church. People at the cemetery extended, that's where they buried everybody. And I took my daughters, we went to the cemetery, and a third of the cemetery was Thurmans and Sharptons, but these are the white Sharptons, because the slaves didn't get a tombstone. They wasn't in a, my great-grandfather buried out somewhere in the woods with a pebble over his. And my youngest daughter's with me today. She stood there at the tombstone of the guy that owned my great-grandfather. She said, Daddy. I said, what?
We invite you to make a contribution to the ministry. Through your giving, we reach our community and expand His kingdom. And we recognize the one who gave us everything. To give, you can use technology. Use the Push app or go to Giving page on the Union Baptist website. Use the Cash app. $UBC1203. Use the Givelify app. Union Baptist Church, Winston-Salem. Let us show love through giving.